A man and a blonde woman were hugging each other in the middle of the street. Suddenly, the perpetrator drove away, but collided with a bus. The police quickly arrived at the scene. This beautiful policewoman went to check the surroundings. Then she began to interrogate the surviving man. She didn't wait and asked why the blonde woman was shot so many times, but the man standing right next to her was fine. Unexpectedly, the man answered frankly that he had the ability to be immortal. The policewoman thought he was delusional, so she didn't ask any more and left. She didn't know that the man wasn't lying. He was Lucifer, the 1,000-year-old devil who escaped from hell and was hiding in human form. Then, Lucifer came to a man. Lucifer angrily pushed the other person, breaking the glass. He suspected that he was the mastermind who hired a killer to kill his friend, because he was her second husband and had beaten her many times. The man swore that he didn't do it. He beat his ex-wife because he was so angry when he found out she was cheating. He also didn't know who his ex-wife's current lover was. He only knew that she often went to see a psychologist, so maybe the doctor would know something. Lucifer got a clue and was about to go see the doctor. At this time, Kloe had just arrived at the scene for questioning. Lucifer said that he had asked everything. This man was not the mastermind. They should go see a psychologist now. Kloe was unhappy that she saw him everywhere. She wanted to catch Lucifer, but he quickly escaped and even teased her. Kloe reluctantly let him join the investigation. On the way, Kloe curiously asked Lucifer why he appeared in this case. It turned out that after Layla died, Lucifer had started investigating alone. He went to her first love, Jimmy's wedding. After a while of arguing, Lucifer realized that he didn't know anything. However, he got information about another man, the person they would meet later. On the way to the doctor's house, Kloe stopped by to pick up her daughter from school. Lucifer also helped her teach a classmate. It could be seen that Lucifer was really mischievous. They then quickly went to the doctor. At first, the doctor refused to reveal the patient's information because of professional principles, but Lucifer was the Lord of Hell, and he had a special ability that if he looked straight into anyone's eyes, that person would immediately reveal all their truest desires. The doctor then automatically revealed that Layla was dating a man named Jay, and they could ask him for more information. So the two of them then went to Jay, but he didn't know much. They happened to see the watch on his hand that was identical to the murderer's. It turned out that the watch was a gift from Layla, and each boyfriend received the same watch. After getting the clue, Lucifer and Kloe returned to the bar to analyze the case. They realized that Layla had 3 boyfriends, and they were all given the same type of watch. But why did the murderer have that watch? When they were at a loss, Maze, a waitress at the bar, joked that Layla had just died, but her album had sold several times better than before, and the album even reached number 15 on the charts. Kloe immediately realized the key point. She understood why the murderer had the watch. Lucifer also understood something. The two immediately went to Jimmy's company. It turned out that Jimmy was not only the ex-lover, but also the boss of the company that released the blonde woman's album. After her death, sales skyrocketed. Jimmy was definitely in need of money, so he hired a hitman to kill her. He then took the watch as a reward for the hitman. Seeing that his plot was exposed, Jimmy took a nearby person hostage. Lucifer stepped forward without fear, ignoring Kloe's warnings. Kloe was forced to take action and take down Jimmy. Lucifer angrily shouted why she killed him. He hadn't let him suffer yet. The two argued and forgot to check if Jimmy was still able to attack. As a result, he shot Kloe. Lucifer tried to reassure Kloe that she wouldn't die. Jimmy took the opportunity to shoot Lucifer. This time, the Lord of Hell was really angry. Lucifer grabbed Jimmy and revealed his true form. Before Kloe fainted, she had time to see Lucifer taking the bullet for her and his devilish appearance. Kloe was lying on the hospital bed. She thanked Lucifer for saving her, but couldn't hide her curiosity about why he could be hit by so many bullets without being hurt. Lucifer didn't answer directly and left the hospital. Returning to the bar, he just got out of the car and ran into an angel. It was his brother Amenadiel. Amenadiel warned Lucifer not to be influenced by human emotions and quickly returned to hell. On the street, a man who claimed to be God's messenger was loudly preaching. He told people to repent by giving him money. Lucifer stood beside him and sarcastically said that he wasn't as evil as he said. Ambition and desire were both born from humans. The man immediately became unhappy. He thought that Lucifer was disrupting his business, so he asked him to leave. But this made Lucifer really angry. He swore that he would make him his slave. The other party immediately panicked and shouted to everyone that Lucifer was the devil, but no one believed it. That night, Kloe secretly followed followed Lucifer. She saw him playing the piano in the middle of the hall. She walked over to talk to him. Lucifer did not show any surprise. He just gently asked why she came here. Kloe questioned why he could be shot 6 times without being hurt. Lucifer still insisted that he was the Lord of Hell. Kloe of course did not believe it. She thought he was lying. She decided to use beauty to approach and test him. Lucifer thought that he had successfully used his charm again, but the next second Kloe stood up. It turned out that she was just checking to see if he was wearing a bulletproof vest. Lucifer impatiently said that he was really the devil, and he also wondered why his ability did not work on Kloe. With normal people, as long as Lucifer looked straight into their eyes, they would reveal their deepest desires, but it was completely useless to Kloe. Before Lucifer could find out, Kloe received a call. It turned out that a car accident had just happened nearby. When she arrived at the scene of the accident, Kloe learned that the victim had died because of being followed and photographed by paparazzi. In a panic, the victim drove and caused a fatal accident. Lucifer followed them. He discovered that the paparazzi was still nearby. Kloe immediately recognized Steve. She angrily blamed Steve for killing someone just because of a few photos, and he would not escape punishment. Steve showed remorse and agreed to take responsibility. But Lucifer felt something was wrong because this person admitted his guilt so easily. Lucifer immediately used his power. As a result, Steve began to reveal the truth that there was a mastermind. But before he could say the mastermind's name, another police officer came and took him away, cutting off clues. With no more clues, Kloe decided to start the investigation from the beginning. Lucifer naturally followed her. Lucifer and Kloe returned to her house. Chloe's daughter happily ran over to hug him, but Lucifer didn't like children at all, so he did something very childish. He picked up her toy and threw it far away, telling her to go pick it up. Kloe immediately chased him out of the house. Steve was being interrogated when Lucifer suddenly entered the room. He thought Lucifer came to ask about the case, but he actually wanted to ask about Kloe. Lucifer revealed that he was Satan, who could make others reveal their secret desires, but that ability didn't work on Kloe. Steve seemed to know Kloe quite well. It turned out that when Kloe was 19, she had starred in a movie that made her famous overnight. But 2 weeks later her father suddenly passed away. Steve had secretly taken photos at the funeral and was discovered by Kloe. Since then the two had an irreconcilable feud. Lucifer found this information quite useful. Kloe later met the father of the deceased victim. She learned that at the scene that day, besides Steve, there was another person. However, the father did not know who it was. As soon as the conversation ended, Kloe received a phone call. Lucifer had entered the interrogation room without permission. She immediately went to Lucifer's bar, where he was arguing with Maze. Maze felt that Lucifer had changed. He was the Lord of Hell, but now he lived like a normal person. The two argued fiercely when Kloe stepped in and interrupted the conversation. She and Lucifer continued to analyze the case. They suspected that the person who caused the accident was not Steve but someone else, and that he was also a photographer. Because of his profession, there was a high possibility that he was hanging around an area where he could hunt for news. They went to a place where paparazzi often gathered and quickly discovered a suspicious man. He immediately pointed at Kloe and shouted loudly that she was the actress that year. The reporters immediately rushed in and surrounded Kloe. Kloe was so angry that she almost hit someone. Lucifer stood by the side, enjoying and cheering her on to hit him. Of course, Kloe couldn't hit him, so the other party also took the opportunity to escape. But how could he escape from Lucifer and Kloe? The two quickly found his whereabouts. He was secretly taking pictures of someone else. Suddenly, he raised the camera and aimed it at the back. A minute later, the two girls were fighting loudly. Lucifer immediately realized that this was a trick of this paparazzi. He created an event, get exclusive photos. Returning to the bar, Lucifer and Kloe reviewed the news released by Ron. They found that all of his posts were first-hand news, meaning that Ron was always the first to arrive at the scene, from which they concluded that he was the mastermind behind the events. Thanks to that, he was able to take exclusive photos. However, what they didn't understand was why Steve, who had a grudge against Kloe, was willing to take the blame for Ron. After Kloe left, Lucifer decided to use his own way to deal with Ron. Meanwhile, Kloe went to the interrogation room to talk to Steve again. She said that Ron had long planned to cause an accident to get news. Steve was very surprised when he heard it, and then he told the whole truth. It turned out that when Ron was 16, he was taught the profession by Steve, and Steve passed on all his skills to him. At the same time, he hoped that he would not repeat his mistake, but when he heard that he had accidentally caused death, Steve decided to take the blame to protect kept him, like a father protecting his child. He did not expect that his student was deceiving him. Just when they were emotional, Kloe received a call. Someone reported that Ron was missing. Kloe felt something was wrong. When she returned to the interrogation room, she discovered that Steve had also disappeared. In another place, Lucifer led Steve to a street. He was confused and asked Lucifer why he brought him here. Maze then opened the trunk of the car, pulled Ron out, and threw Steve a gun. Then she said that Steve was about to confess everything. If Ron didn't do anything, he would go to jail for life. Lucifer looked straight at Steve and said that person he considered a son betrayed him for his own benefit. At this point, Ron began to panic. If Steve really confessed everything, he would go to jail for life. So Ron did not hesitate to shoot his teacher, but luckily the gun was empty. Steve was surprised and said that he considered Ron as a son, but he wanted to kill him, so it was Steve's turn to angrily point the gun at Ron. At that moment, Kloe also arrived. She immediately began to advise Steve. Lucifer also felt that her words made sense. The two people who used to see each other as father and son were now confronting each other because of betrayal. Lucifer, who was the Lord of Hell, decided to intervene. He wanted to save the two. When Steve was about to pull the trigger, Lucifer immediately called the angel a manadil. The moment he appeared, the time around slowed down. Turned out that when an angel came to Earth, space and time would almost stand still. Lucifer blocked the bullet in time and let Amenadio leave. When time returned to normal, Kloe was completely surprised by what happened. She couldn't believe what she saw. Kloe then questioned Lucifer that she clearly saw Steve shoot. Lucifer was standing in front of her at that time, but the bullet missed and he appeared behind her. Lucifer seriously replied that he had called an angel for help. Kloe of course didn't believe it, but her suspicions about Lucifer's true identity arose once again. Kloe then went to Jimmy to ask about Lucifer's shooting, but Jimmy was now severely traumatized, and just hearing the name, Lucifer, made him panic and bang his head against the glass. At the party hosted by football star Jackson, Lucifer quickly realized that Jackson had just rejected a girl's invitation. With his chaotic nature, Lucifer immediately approached him. He used his charm to make Jackson express his true desires. It turned out that Jackson was not interested in love. He had never loved anyone before. However, with Lucifer's charm and seduction, Jackson finally accepted the girl's invitation. Lucifer turned around and started talking to another girl, but the girl thought he was pretending to be Lucifer. Because the Lucifer she knew was very famous, Lucifer suddenly realized that someone was clearly impersonating him. The next morning, Jackson hurriedly woke Lucifer up. He panicked and said that the girl he dated yesterday was dead. Very quickly, policewoman Kloe also appeared at the crime scene. Looking at her body, she could conclude that this was an assassination. Kloe first interrogated Jackson, the host of the party, but she couldn't get any useful information. There was no other way. They had to check each guest present that day. Lucifer kept giving his opinion. He pointed at this person and said that such a big hand could very well be the murderer. Then he pointed at that person and said that his face was too pale. So he was also suspicious. Kloe was upset, thinking that Lucifer was obstructing the investigation, so she kicked him out. Then, while Kloe was collecting evidence, she suddenly heard a noise outside. It turned out that it was still Lucifer. She was about to blame him when she discovered that there was a video of Jackson and the girl from yesterday on her phone. Kloe immediately took action. She rushed over to arrest Jackson. He shouted that he was wronged and accused Lucifer of being the one who caused everything. Seeing this, Lucifer felt extremely wronged, but he said that he could tell who was a good person and who was a bad person. Jackson was a good person, and each video could not be used as evidence to accuse him. But Kloe thought that a man who had been single for more than 20 years suddenly dated and was videotaped. He must have been afraid of affecting his reputation, so he killed the girl. Lucifer couldn't argue back, so he could only leave angrily. Returning to the bar, Lucifer was about to drink when Maze came again. She reported that someone impersonated him, went out and ate $2,000 worth of chicken wings, and ran away without paying. Hearing this, Lucifer became even more upset. Then Lucifer went to see a psychologist to relieve his emotions. After listening, the doctor directly said the real reason why he was angry, it was because he was denied by Kloe. If he found the real culprit, everything would be resolved. After hearing this, Lucifer seemed to wake up. He and Kloe immediately went to find Jackson's manager to question him. With Lucifer's power and Chloe's pressure, the manager finally confessed. Jackson once had a girlfriend named Bella. She loved Jackson very much. At first, she was just a fan, but they quickly developed into a romantic relationship. However, she gradually controlled Jackson too much. One time, Jackson was having dinner with a female fan, and Bella found out. She went crazy and broke her love rival's nose. In order to protect Jackson, the manager forced him to end his relationship with Bella. If Bella was also present the night of the incident, then there was a high chance that she was the culprit. Lucifer and Kloe quickly found Bella, but she was not cooperative. At that that moment, her car suddenly exploded. After interrogation, Bella confessed that she was at a party that night, and that the car explosion today was due to revenge by her love rival. Kloe felt very suspicious. While she was analyzing the incident, Lucifer stood next to her and continuously pressured Bella to confess. Lucifer was trying to prove his ability to Kloe, but Bella immediately gave an alibi. On the night of the incident, when Bella learned that Jackson had a new girlfriend, she went to the ice cream shop and cried all night. So the case once again fell into a deadlock. At that moment, they found a suspicious woman near the scene of the car explosion. This woman had a criminal past, but if they wanted to approach her, they needed a completely unfamiliar face. Lucifer confidently accepted this mission. He used the excuse of discussing business to lure the woman into an alley. However, as soon as they met, the woman said that someone was impersonating Lucifer to scam people everywhere. Lucifer was extremely confused, thinking of something. Then he suddenly let her go. Kloe and the investigation team immediately ran to question her, but Lucifer calmly said that he had other plans. It turned out that Lucifer wanted to ask this woman to help him find the impostor. Very quickly, at his bar, Lucifer stood next to him and coldly questioned who the other party was. Why did he dare to impersonate him? Lucifer was angry because he was not as handsome as him and dared to impersonate him. The man still insisted that he was Lucifer and demanded to be released. Of course, Lucifer did not forgive him. He threatened to pull out all of his toes. The man was so scared that he kept begging for forgiveness. He confessed that he was just an unemployed person who specialized in cheating to get free food. After a while, Lucifer calmed down and released him. Maze, standing next to him, could not bear it anymore. She thought he was gradually becoming benevolent, and that was not like a lord of hell. Lucifer just kept quiet. Then he still paid the woman who helped him catch the impostor. But the next second, Kloe and the investigation team suddenly rushed in and arrested the woman on murder charges. The woman pleaded that she did not kill anyone. She only blew up her rival's car to get revenge. The main manager was the one who asked to secretly film Jackson's love clip. The victim was sent to seduce Jackson, but in the end, the girl refused to obey the order and was killed. Lucifer and Kloe immediately understood that the real culprit was the manager, but Kloe had no evidence. They needed to lure him into confessing. The manager always blamed Bella, but in fact, she was not invited to the party, so how would he know she was at the party if he was not there? Lucifer and Kloe went to the conference room, pretending to investigate further, and intended to take Jackson away. The manager panicked and said no, and they should arrest Bella. Kloe replied that no one saw her at the party. The manager quickly said that he saw her. Kloe smiled and said that was enough. The woman had confessed everything. It turned out that the manager was afraid that Jackson would leave him once he became famous, so he planned to blackmail her to control Jackson. But in the end, the girl he hired refused to listen to him. He was so angry that he couldn't control himself and killed the girl. Lucifer was angry. He pushed him down with one hand and he hit the glass hard. Kloe immediately stopped him. The manager was arrested. Lucifer was like a child bragging about his achievements to Kloe. After returning home, Kloe kept watching the video of Lucifer pushing the manager over and over again. Her heart was full of doubts. How could a normal person use his bare hands to push such a big person through the tempered glass? Kloe was taking a shower when she suddenly heard a noise. Outside, she immediately turned off the water and walked out with a weapon. Who would have thought she would see Lucifer cooking in her kitchen? At this moment, Chloe's ex-husband brought their daughter home. In such a scene, it was hard for Dan not to misunderstand. Kloe angrily kicked Lucifer out. Being kicked out by Kloe, Lucifer went to see a psychologist to relieve himself. He was both angry and complaining that he was the Lord of Hell, yet she dared to kick him out of the house. She must have a problem with her brain. The doctor just laughed and said that he should act like a normal person to approach Kloe. Lucifer was enlightened. He decided to start by inviting Kloe to play cards. At the same time, Kloe took on a new case. A girl named Lily went missing. The last time she was seen was at a club. The police had worked with Ben, the founder of the club. They felt he was very suspicious, but had no evidence to convict him. Dan knew that Ben would be giving a lecture tonight and then a private party for the upper class. Lucifer was on the guest list, and although he didn't want to get involved with Lucifer, Dan had to let Kloe go with him to the party to investigate. On the way, Lucifer happily bragged, even though Kloe kept emphasizing that she was only going for work, but he thought she liked him. Kloe seriously said that she would rather date the ice and snow of hell than date him. Lucifer laughed and said that he could freeze hell. At the lecture, they saw Lily's younger brother was also there and was chased out by security. Kloe wanted to help, but the security wouldn't let him go. Lucifer had to intervene. He used his power to seduce the guard that there were many beautiful girls outside, but the guard said that he was gay, making the atmosphere extremely awkward. But in the end, Lucifer still solved the problem. After talking to Lily's brother, Kloe and Lucifer were even more more certain that Ben was the main suspect. The speech began and Ben spoke on stage. Then Lucifer accidentally revealed Kloe's true identity as a police officer. They were immediately kicked out of the party. The plan was ruined, but Lucifer came up with a new idea. Tonight his bar was free. If Ben liked to party, he would definitely come. Then they returned to Lucifer's house, but as soon as he entered the house, he took off all his clothes. He said that he did it to be fair to Kloe because he accidentally saw her naked the other day. Kloe was surprised and immediately asked him to put on his clothes. When Lucifer turned around, she saw 2 large scars on his back. She asked Lucifer what these were. Lucifer said that they were the marks of cutting off his devil wings when he escaped from hell. Kloe didn't believe it. She wanted to touch the scars to verify, but Lucifer immediately stopped her. Maybe those scars carried the wounds in his soul. That night, the party took place at Lucifer's bar. In his territory, he could easily control the situation. Kloe quickly discovered Ben standing secretly in a corner with an extremely tense expression. Kloe wanted to approach from the crowd. She asked a few people, but did not get any useful information. On the contrary, her actions made Ben realize that he was being investigated. He immediately stood up and was about to leave the shop, but Lucifer had secretly locked the door from the outside. Ben was scared and pulled out a gun to threaten Lucifer. Kloe appeared from behind and quickly restrained him. Ben confessed that someone had kidnapped Lily. If the two of them continued to investigate, she would die. It turned out that Lily was his girlfriend. They had known each other for 4 months. The kidnappers kept demanding ransom from him. Lucifer immediately called the kidnappers and introduced himself as Lucifer. He then told them to give him the location of the transaction and he would bring the money. After hearing this, the kidnappers sent a video proving that Lily was still alive. Lucifer and Kloe went to the transaction point. On the way, Kloe curiously asked if Lucifer was really a devil. How would he feel when he was shot? Lucifer tapped her shoulder lightly and said this, meaning he only felt a little pain, no bleeding, no wounds left. Lucifer thought Kloe seemed to be starting to believe him, but unexpectedly, Ben secretly followed the two of them to the transaction location. Kloe was worried that something would happen, so she followed him. Lucifer quickly caught up with Ben and locked the door. He had promised the kidnappers that he wouldn't bring the police, so he wanted to handle this. Lucifer quickly chased Ben inside. Suddenly, a kidnapper appeared behind them, pointed a gun at them, and demanded money. Lucifer said that one side had to give the money and the other side had to release the person at the same time. The kidnapper saw that threatening them was ineffective, so he tried to grab the bag of money. While Lucifer was still struggling, Ben was so worried about Lily that he took the initiative to give the money. As soon as the kidnapper received the money, he had no intention of releasing the person. Ben angrily pulled out a gun and pointed it at him. But unexpectedly at that moment, Lily shot Ben. Lucifer was shocked and didn't understand what was happening. It turned out that this was a play that she directed herself. It turned out that the entire kidnapping was Lily and her brother's plan. The kidnapper was her brother, and Lily pretended to be the victim to blackmail Ben. Ben was now in pain, thinking that he had truly loved her, but she had betrayed him. Unexpectedly, Lily was also angry and said that Ben said he loved her, but he couldn't even remember her name. It turned out that Lily was Ben's first love 2 years ago. At that time, she truly loved him, but he disappeared without explanation. Therefore, Lily was determined to take revenge by making Ben love her back, and then she would betray him, causing him both physical and mental pain. Ben said that he had changed, and he was no longer the same person he used to be. Lucifer realized that Ben had truly repented and thought that they should forgive each other, but Lily's brother did not agree. He forced his sister to kill Ben and Lucifer to cover up clues. Lucifer did not let things go too far. He revealed his true form as a devil, which terrified Lily. At that moment, Kloe arrived. Through the mirror, she saw Lucifer's true form. She was terrified and asked who he was. Lucifer replied that he was a devil. If Kloe did not believe him, she could just shoot him. Kloe hesitated for a moment, but then she tried to pull the trigger. But just a second later, Lucifer suddenly winced in pain and saw a lot of blood flowing. Seeing himself injured, Lucifer was extremely surprised. He couldn't believe that he, the Lord of Hell, could be injured by a human bullet. After returning to the bar, Lucifer told Maze the whole story. Maze couldn't believe it either. For safety's sake, Maze suggested that Lucifer should return to hell. At that time, a man was driving in the warehouse and was about to take a container away. The security guard saw this and immediately ran over to stop him. He intended to call to verify, but unexpectedly, the man attacked him and strangled him to death. After that, the man took the container away. The next morning, Lucifer received a call from Kloe and went to the scene. He wasn't very interested in the case, so he just played around with tools. Kloe was annoyed and reminded him, but Lucifer didn't care much. He even found it funny. He left and said that if there was a more interesting case, he should call him. When Lucifer returned to the bar, he was complaining when Maze said that they had a problem. problem. It turned out that the stolen container belonged to Lucifer. Lucifer was surprised and said it was okay because he didn't need the contents anymore. Maze frowned and said that if he didn't need it, then that was fine. But if this news spread, people would immediately think that the devil's things were easily stolen and his reputation would be ruined. Lucifer thought it made sense, so he returned to the scene. He told Kloe that the container was his. Kloe was surprised and asked why he didn't tell her sooner. Lucifer said he just found out. Maze asked him to keep it for her, but he didn't know what was inside. Kloe seriously asked, what if the warehouse was full of contraband? Lucifer then made an excuse to avoid it, saying that he had a clue and they needed to find the culprit right away. Lucifer and Kloe followed the clue to a beach where they met an ice cream seller who was actually a contraband transporter. It turned out that Maze had used this person to find the warehouse, and if the container was stolen, it was likely because this person had leaked the information. Under pressure from Lucifer and Kloe, the ice cream seller finally revealed the name of the Devil King who controlled port. The Devil King might know what happened. Lucifer immediately wanted Kloe to praise him for being good, but Kloe still just wanted to know what was inside the container. Lucifer avoided answering directly and said that it was a gift from his father. Kloe lost patience and decided not to let Lucifer participate in the investigation anymore. She called Dan and said that she believed that Lucifer's container contained contraband. She also told Dan to investigate Lucifer's bar. Dan happily accepted the task. When he arrived, Dan met Maze. Knowing that he was Kloe's ex-husband, Maze immediately asked if the two had officially divorced. Then she went into the office and suddenly knocked Dan out. When he woke up, Dan found himself lying naked in Kloe's house. He quickly hid in his daughter's room before Kloe returned. Dan then returned to the bar. Maze said that if he and Kloe slept together again, they would get back together and she would stay away from Lucifer. Dan just thought this was ridiculous and was about to arrest Maze, but Maze cleverly brought out the books immediately. After checking, Dan found no abnormalities in the bar books. At the same time, Lucifer went to see a psychologist. He said that he always used the identities of a bar owner and a police officer to hide himself. The doctor asked him directly why he didn't try to live true to himself. This made Lucifer think, but he didn't accept it and said that he doubted the doctor's ability. After saying that, he stood up and left. Lucifer then went to Kloe and sincerely apologized to her. He made it clear that he needed to find his item and he hoped she would let him investigate with him. Kloe agreed. The two then went to the Devil King's club, who was believed to be involved in the container theft. As soon as they entered, a few thugs immediately stared at Lucifer, but he was not afraid and stepped up to the table to demand his item back. A thug stepped forward to attack, but was quickly subdued by Kloe. Everything caught the Devil King's attention. He invited the two into a private room to talk. Lucifer asked directly if he knew about the recent container theft. The Demon King calmly replied that he had not controlled the port for a long time. He had no idea about this and had nothing to do with it. Kloe showed the iron cross she had found at the scene. The Demon King replied that all car collectors had this kind of thing, and it didn't mean anything. Then he chased them both out of the room. Lucifer insisted that he definitely knew something, and they had to force him to confess. But Kloe disagreed. The police couldn't use violence. They had to follow the procedure. So the two got in the car and secretly followed the Demon King. Sure enough, after a while, he drove away from the club. They followed him to a warehouse, where the Demon King was waiting for someone. Lucifer began to get bored and complained. Kloe said that he had appeared 5 years ago. She suspected him of being involved in illegal activities. If she had evidence, she would personally arrest him. However, she still hoped she was wrong, because working with him, she found him to be quite good. Hearing this, Lucifer was happy. He said that he had never lied to her. He confessed that the Russian dolls in the container were a gift from his father. At that moment, the Devil King was waiting for appeared, but before he could say anything, he was shot dead by another person from behind. The shooter quickly ran away. Kloe immediately got out of the ambulance to treat the injured person, while Lucifer chased after the assassin. The assassin realized that someone was following him, so he ran into a building. Lucifer did not hesitate and rushed in to chase after him, but the other person had a gun, and Lucifer was no longer immortal like before, so he was still a bit cautious. When he ran out of bullets, he immediately ran to the rooftop. Lucifer chased after him. On the roof, Lucifer asked where the items in his container were. The other party trembled and confessed that he was just a hired hand and didn't know what was inside. But then he couldn't help but confess that he had peeked inside. After saying that, he kept apologizing. Lucifer got angry and revealed his true form. The assassin was so scared that he jumped off the roof. Fortunately, the Devil King was saved below and was revealing the location of the container. Lucifer and Kloe quickly immediately arrived. When they opened it, Kloe was extremely surprised to see that it was indeed a Russian doll. She couldn't help but wonder why Lucifer had spent so much effort just to find the dolls. Lucifer didn't answer. When Kloe left, Lucifer opened a secret compartment in the container. There was nothing inside. The most important thing had been taken away. Lucifer went to see the psychiatrist in a depressed mood. The doctor looked straight at him and asked, "You haven't found it yet, have you?" Lucifer nodded. The doctor said that there were things that people only understood their true value when they were lost. Then the doctor continued to say that Lucifer always called himself the Lord of Hell, and she had read all the stories about him. Before he was banished to hell, his name was Samuel, and he was the angel of light. That name was a symbol of God's love for him. Lucifer became angry when he heard this. He said that his banishment to hell was a punishment. He punched a hole in the wall and left. When he returned to the bar, Lucifer slowly took off his shirt and revealed 2 large scars on his back. It turned out that the stolen item was a pair of wings. Lucifer and Maze then questioned 5 people in a row, but still had no results. Lucifer decided to find someone who could help him. At this time, Kloe was also having a headache because of a complicated religious case that had no progress. For the first time, Lucifer showed concern when he gently comforted her with a few sentences. Then he asked what she would do if she were stuck in a case with no way out. Kloe replied that she would find someone who was not afraid of her and was willing to be honest with her. She smiled and said that person looked like Lucifer. Lucifer smiled when he heard that, but then he seemed to think of something and immediately turned around and left. Lucifer arrived at the beach where he and Maze first set foot on the earth 5 years ago. It was there that he asked Maze to cut off his wings. Then, Lucifer called Immortality to see him. Immortality was surprised and asked why he called him here. Lucifer replied that this was where he gave up his angel status and where everything began. He continued that his wings were stolen and he needed Immortality's help, but Immortality seemed disappointed. He said that since the day Lucifer left hell, Immortality had to replace his brother to guard the gate every day for fear that the demons would escape. Immortality hated that job, and he angrily said that the wings were sacred relics, and if they fell into the wrong hands, the consequences would be unpredictable. Lucifer said that was why he needed his brother's help, but Immortality coldly turned away. He said that if Lucifer wanted freedom, he should solve it himself. When his brother refused to help, Lucifer had no choice but to go back to find Kloe. This time, Lucifer told her the truth, that what he was looking for was a pair of stolen angel wings. Unexpectedly, Kloe couldn't help but laugh out loud. She thought Lucifer was joking, but Lucifer was serious. She had no choice to say that she would help him spread the word to search for the angel wings throughout the city, but on the condition that he help her solve the case. Lucifer happily agreed. But at that moment, Dan appeared from behind. The 2 men faced each other. The atmosphere immediately became tense. Although both of them tried to smile politely, they were unhappy in their hearts. Then, they came to the scene of a shooting. 2 bad guys had a gunfight with a policeman named Malcolm. Malcolm was later awarded a medal for his bravery, but Kloe felt something was wrong. She decided to investigate the incident again. They reenacted the scene. Lucifer played the bad guy, and Dan played the policeman Malcolm. Kloe stood behind the wall and watched. She began to imagine. At that moment, the bad guy gave Malcolm a wad of money. Kloe accidentally made a noise. Malcolm discovered her, but did not save her. Kloe hid behind the wall, and a few seconds later heard gunshots. When she ran over, the bad guy was dead, and Malcolm was injured. Lucifer immediately objected that it was unreasonable. If Malcolm received the money, it meant he was an accomplice of the bad guys, and the bad guys shooting Malcolm was unreasonable. Kloe thought that there might be a third person at that time. Dan immediately said that the crime scene had been thoroughly searched, and there was no trace of a third person. At this moment, Dan received a text message saying that there was a clue about Lucifer's wings. Lucifer's wings would be auctioned off at a black market tonight. The police would rush in and arrest the mastermind, and Lucifer could come later to get his things back. That night, Lucifer went to the auction house. Immortality also suddenly appeared. Seeing his brother come to help Lucifer, he was secretly happy. But as soon as he reached the door, Lucifer was stopped because he didn't have an invitation. Although he tried to persuade them, the guards still wouldn't let them in. Lucifer discovered that there was a surveillance camera, so he took out the hell coin, a symbol of his power. The auctioneer saw it and immediately invited them into a private room. This person was very interested in Lucifer's coin and wanted to buy it back at a high price. But Lucifer refused and asked him to return the wings. The other party immediately signaled all the guards to pull out their guns and point them at Lucifer and Amenadiel. Amenadiel angrily said that they should just let them shoot to see who lives and who dies. Lucifer was afraid of being injured, so he immediately calmed the other party down and said that he would participate in the auction to get the wings back. Amenadiel was disappointed that Lucifer, the Lord of Hell, was afraid of guns. Lucifer confessed that since the day he was shot, he felt that he was no longer immortal. Before he understood the reason, he had to be careful. Amenadiel sarcastically said that if he killed Lucifer, Lucifer would immediately return to hell. At that moment, the auction began. The first item was a bracelet that was once worn by an angel. Lucifer and Amenadiel just looked at each other and smiled meaningfully. This bracelet couldn't even fit an angel's finger. Suddenly, Kloe also appeared. She warned Lucifer that the police were about to attack and that he should retreat early. The next item on stage was a pair of angel wings. The audience was amazed by its magnificent beauty. Lucifer feared that the police would confiscate the wings. He begged Amenadiel for help or the wings would be lost forever. Amenadiel closed his eyes and time stopped. Lucifer ran onto the stage but discovered that the wings were fake. Lucifer angrily turned to Kloe and asked what she was doing here. He also told her not to hinder him. Amenadiel teased him and said that he should help Kloe disappear. Lucifer had no choice but to let him handle it himself. After discovering that the wings were fake, Kloe continued to investigate the old case in the presidential office, which was the place where the gunfight between police officer Malcolm and two drug dealers had taken place. This time, Dan discovered a secret passage and found a master key. This is a key that only the police have. This suggests that the shootout in the past was probably staged by another police officer. Meanwhile, Lucifer sneaked into the auctioneer's house. As soon as he entered the house, he began to look around and quickly found his wings. Lucifer roared angrily when he saw the wings being put on display. The other party was scared and knelt down to beg for his life. He confessed that someone hired him to do it, and he didn't know that they were Lucifer's wings. Lucifer continued to question who was the mastermind. On the beach, Lucifer sat in the middle of the wings and thought. When Amenadiel walked over, Lucifer unexpectedly burned the wings he had worked so hard to find. Amenadiel watched in pain as the fire burned the relic to him, the wings that symbolized his faith and mission. But Lucifer said he already knew the truth. It turned out that Amenadiel had set it all up to force his brother back to hell. Amenadiel got angry and got into a fight with Lucifer. Everything passed as time passed. That day, at a restaurant, Lucifer was trying to flirt with a girl with strawberries. But while they were talking, a scream rang out, interrupting their fun. It turned out that a murder had happened right there. The victim was a chef who was also the owner of the restaurant. The man was named David, someone Lucifer admired for his excellent food. Kloe said that David usually had breakfast at the restaurant before going to the supermarket to buy groceries. The time he was poisoned was exactly the same. Everyone in the restaurant said that David had a difficult and strict personality, but they still considered him a father. Lucifer was interested in David's son. His name was Rick. He used to be a chef, but because his father did not recognize him, he ran away from home. Lucifer realized that Rick was a rebel like him, so he immediately asked if he came back to kill his father. Rick denied it and said that he just wanted to have a meal with his father. He came back yesterday, and this morning he had breakfast with his father. Everything was fine. Kloe asked if David would inherit the restaurant if he died. Rick replied that he didn't deserve it. Lucifer felt that there were too many coincidences. Rick had just returned, and his father had died of poisoning. Meanwhile, Malcolm was on patrol. Dan asked Malcolm why he had asked him to steal the gun. Malcolm openly said that he wanted to kill Lucifer. Seeing Dan's surprise, Malcolm simply replied that he wanted to live on. At the same time, Kloe and Lucifer received information that David's breakfast had been prepared by the restaurant manager, Annie. If David died, Annie would inherit the restaurant. But suddenly, Annie vomited blood and collapsed on the spot. When Annie was taken to the emergency room, Kloe began to deduce that she might have eaten David's poisoned breakfast, or that someone wanted to kill David and Annie. Lucifer immediately suspected Rick. Rick had been away from home for many years, but he suddenly returned last night and his father died this morning. Kloe also received a new clue. A girl named Austin had had a fierce argument with David and Annie 2 days ago. Lucifer and Kloe went to Austin's place and found that her backpack had Rick's name embroidered on it, which showed that Rick and Austin had a very close relationship. They continued to search and found a small bag containing poison. Austin then returned and admitted that she and David had argued. The reason was because she loved Rick, but his father opposed their relationship. This morning, she didn't stay at the restaurant but went to meet her friends. She also said that she and Rick wanted to prove their love to his father. Rick also planned to cook dinner to make peace with his father. Lucifer realized that Rick was telling the truth. He was really sad when when he learned that his father died. He didn't look like a murderer, so Lucifer wanted to invite Rick to Chloe's house for a vegetarian meal. He explained that he felt that Rick was innocent and wanted to investigate further. However, Rick still had no alibi. He could only confirm that he came back to reconcile with his father. Kloe couldn't just rely on her feelings to conclude that he was innocent. She was still hesitating when she received a call from the lab. The poison found at Austin's house didn't match the poison that killed David. If so, Rick wasn't the murderer. But if Annie was also poisoned and she was the one who cooked breakfast, then who was the murderer? Lucifer immediately retorted that she could have poisoned herself without dying if she knew the exact dosage. Kloe began to deduce that if Annie knew that she was about to lose her position as heir because David planned to leave the restaurant to Rick, then she would have had enough motive to kill David. Soon after, they received news that Annie had escaped from the hospital. Lucifer and Kloe immediately went to the restaurant. Sure enough, Annie was trying to destroy all the evidence. Annie admitted that she only wanted to poison Rick, but David ate the wrong dish. As soon as she finished speaking, she threw the oil barrel to the ground and lit it on fire. The whole restaurant was on fire. Lucifer immediately shielded Kloe, but he himself was burned. It seemed that his immortality was really disappearing. In another place, Malcolm was eating a hamburger when he was suddenly approached by a man. The man wanted to stop Malcolm from killing Lucifer. Malcolm suddenly knocked the man down and dragged him into a dark room. When the man woke up, Malcolm said that his fingerprints were on the gun. When Malcolm killed Lucifer, all evidence would convict him. The man tried to convince Malcolm to give up. Unexpectedly, Malcolm coldly replied that the other party did not understand what he had gone through. Turned out that in those 30 seconds of clinical death, Malcolm had spent 30 years in hell, and he did not want to go back to that place again. Lucifer was currently taking care of a drunk Kloe. She had just been rejected by Dan to get back into a relationship, so she was heartbroken. Kloe leaned on Lucifer's shoulder and fell asleep. Lucifer was sleeping soundly when Malcolm suddenly pointed a gun at him. Lucifer just sighed and asked who he was and why he wanted to kill him. Malcolm replied that he was working for an angel. As long as he killed Lucifer, he wouldn't have to go to hell again. Lucifer sneered and asked if the other party knew who he was. Then Lucifer revealed his true form and threatened Malcolm. But Malcolm, who had been to hell, wasn't afraid at all, even declared that he knew that Lucifer was no longer immortal. That was why the angel chose him. Lucifer began to panic. Lucifer told Malcolm that even if he was alive now, one day he would die, and at that time, Lucifer, the Lord of Hell, would be the one to rule his fate. Then Lucifer took out the hell coin. He said that this was the key to the gates of hell. If Malcolm spared Lucifer, this coin would be his. It would allow him to freely enter and exit hell without harm. Malcolm agreed, took the coin, and left. Lucifer had just escaped death when a woman came to him. She said that she wanted to leave this miserable place and go to a land called Alice. Her husband was a philanthropist but was murdered, and the murderer was still at large. Hearing this, Lucifer laughed coldly. He said that he had a few friends in Alice. That place was full of wanted criminals. He immediately realized that the woman was the one who killed her husband to escape. The woman was surprised before she could react. Lucifer had analyzed the entire motive and process of the crime. She panicked, pulled out a gun, and shot Lucifer. The woman was giving a sorrowful speech at her husband's funeral when Lucifer suddenly appeared beside her. He used his power to make her confess her crime. She was arrested by the police. Shortly afterwards, Lucifer returned to the bar and told Maze that he had regained his immortality. Maze didn't believe that he, the Lord of Hell, could be hurt by a human. Lucifer recounted the whole incident and then thought about something. He needed to verify something. He quietly made a cut on his palm. Lucifer whispered that it seemed like Kloe had made him vulnerable. Meanwhile, a pagan ritual was taking place. A girl was lying on the altar table, and a man in black was standing next to her. He kept mentioning Satan. Then he stabbed the girl with a knife, but at that moment, she suddenly woke up. It turned out that it was all just a show. However, the man still believed that Satan really needed her. In another scene, Kloe went to Lucifer to ask for help solving the case. On the way, she told him that the victim this time was a girl named Rose. Seeing that Lucifer kept his distance from her, Kloe was annoyed and asked him what he was doing. Lucifer had no choice but to approach him. At the scene, Kloe asked Lucifer why he had to participate in this case. The police turned the victim's body over. Behind the victim was a line of words worshipping Lucifer. Lucifer was very surprised. He said that he did not do this. It was clearly the act of a fanatic. At that moment, a man appeared and shouted that Lucifer was the Lord of Hell and that he would destroy Lucifer. It turned out that he was the priest who had been scared to death by Lucifer on the street. Lucifer and Kloe quickly followed the clues to a mansion full of banners worshipping Satan. On the way, Kloe blamed Lucifer for avoiding her lately. It turned out that Kloe had confessed her feelings to Lucifer the day before, but he had coldly left. Lucifer couldn't tell the truth that just being near near her would make him lose his immortality. When they entered the mansion, they saw that the walls were covered with sermons about Satan. Kloe smiled and said that now she understood why Lucifer liked to call himself Satan. She also asked if Satan was really immortal. Lucifer replied that ordinary people couldn't hurt him, only angels could. At that moment he was startled. If Kloe could hurt him, then could she be an angel? He immediately reached out and touched Kloe's back to check, but he realized that there was no sign of wings. They continued to investigate and found out that the victim's boyfriend could be the main suspect. That night, when they got home, Lucifer suddenly made a request. He wanted to check Kloe's back. Kloe got angry and said that she didn't have time to play his crazy role-playing games. Lucifer couldn't see anything on her back. He also didn't understand why she made him lose his powers. Lucifer couldn't understand why Kloe, a normal human, could make him lose his immortality. At this time, Kloe received a call and found out the suspect's whereabouts. She and Lucifer immediately went to an abandoned factory, but when they got there, they found that the suspect had been murdered. On the wooden crates around, the words Lucifer Morningstar were painted in red paint. Lucifer was surprised and said that he really didn't do it, and that his name had been used by someone. Kloe saw that there was no other way, so she asked Lucifer to temporarily withdraw from the case. She wanted to investigate the case alone. Lucifer was very angry because he thought that Kloe didn't believe him either. She was the only person he trusted, but even she doubted him. After saying that, he angrily left. On the way back, Lucifer met a priest again. He shouted loudly in the middle of the street that Lucifer was dead. Lucifer tried to explain that he didn't kill anyone, but the other party didn't listen. He even rushed in to beat Lucifer. At that moment, Malcolm appeared, pretending to rescue Lucifer. Malcolm then followed Lucifer home. Lucifer asked him in surprise why he followed him. Malcolm replied that he felt good being with Lucifer. Malcolm had changed since returning from hell. Now he even admired Lucifer, but Lucifer discovered that Malcolm's hands were stained with red paint, which was the same paint used at the crime scene. Lucifer immediately suspected Malcolm. Malcolm tried to deny it, but Lucifer exposed him. He admitted that he was the murderer. He also thought that if Lucifer were the devil, he would be happy about it because he loved crime. Lucifer angrily said that even though he was the devil, he did not support killing innocent people. Malcolm laughed loudly and said that he had arranged everything to have someone take the blame for him. That was the priest. All the clues pointed to the priest's guilt. Lucifer was angry, but before he could act, Malcolm held out the hell coin. He said that if Lucifer killed him, he would escape hell and come back here. Lucifer gritted his teeth and said that he would not send Malcolm back to hell. He would hand Malcolm over to the police. Malcolm immediately pulled out a gun and shot Lucifer, but Kloe was not there at that time, so Lucifer regained his immortality. Just as Lucifer was about to punish Malcolm, Amenadiel suddenly appeared and attacked Lucifer. It turned out that Amenadiel was angry because Lucifer had ordered Maze to assassinate him, and Amenadiel secretly loved Maze. Lucifer and his brother fought fiercely. Fortunately, Maze appeared in time and stopped the fight. After that, Lucifer confided in Kloe that she was the only person he trusted, but he needed her to help him prove himself. But Kloe suddenly went around behind him, pulled out a gun and pointed it straight at him. In front of her was the body of the priest who had been shot dead. Kloe turned to look at Lucifer suspiciously. She said that he was arrested for murder. Lucifer was shocked and could only say that he did not do it. Standing in front of his former companion, Lucifer was in despair. He was disappointed that even Kloe did not believe him. He painfully raised his hand to his head and said, "If people do not believe him, then it is better to kill him. If he is dead, then go back to hell." Lucifer pretended to pull out a gun. Seeing this, the police immediately opened fire. But when the crowd rushed over, Lucifer had disappeared. On the rooftop in the light rain, Amenadiel was standing next to Lucifer. It turned out that he was the one who saved his brother from death. Lucifer was not grateful, but blamed his brother because Amenadiel wanted Lucifer to go to hell, but now he saved him. Unexpectedly, Amenadiel admitted that he was wrong to revive Malcolm. That action had caused too many consequences. Now he needed Lucifer's help to send Malcolm back to hell. Lucifer nodded in agreement, considering this the last time he punished someone while he was still in the human world. Meanwhile, at the bar, the police were looking for Lucifer. Malcolm got a special knife that could kill angels. Kloe went to Dan, saying that she didn't believe Lucifer was the murderer and that she would find evidence to clear his name. At that moment, the police found the gun with Dan's fingerprints on it, the very gun he had given to Malcolm. Dan then realized that the real mastermind was Malcolm. He admitted that he had given Malcolm the gun and that Malcolm had used it to kill people and frame Lucifer. They knew they had to help Lucifer clear his name. Kloe firmly said that she would do everything to prove Lucifer's innocence. At the same time, Lucifer and Amenadiel were discussing the plan to capture Malcolm, but Lucifer still blamed that if his brother did not force him to return to hell, and if his brother did not revive Malcolm, everything would not have happened. Amenadiel just kept silent. moment. At that moment, Lucifer's psychiatrist appeared. She was surprised to see both angels and demons coming together. She admitted that she was indeed a doctor for abnormal people. Then the doctor pointed out the mistakes of the two people in turn. For Amenadiel, he selfishly forced his brother to return to hell. With Lucifer, he said that he wanted to live a new life in this world, but he could never let go of the past. Suddenly, the doctor reminded Lucifer that he had said he came to Los Angeles to start a new life. Malcolm did the same. He would definitely go to the place that helped Lucifer start a new life. Hearing that, Lucifer said that he knew where Malcolm was. At that time, Malcolm was at a funeral where there was a person who specialized in forging documents. He was preparing to escape the city with a new identity. Lucifer and Amenadiel broke into the ceremony and forced the man to reveal Malcolm's location. They later learned that Malcolm had mentioned someone named Tommy and that he might know more secrets. Lucifer took Amenadiel to the police station to ask about Tommy. As soon as he saw the two sitting on the chair, Dan was startled to see that they did not look like brothers at all. Lucifer asked Dan if the police had anyone named Tommy. Dan immediately reacted, but he did not intend to answer. Lucifer immediately used his power to force him to tell the truth. Dan immediately revealed that Tommy was a criminal hiding in a brewery. After saying that, Dan turned around and saw that Lucifer and Amenadiel had disappeared. Dan immediately called Kloe and said that he had a clue, and he asked to meet her right now. Malcolm was actually at Tommy's place. He brought cash to trade drugs to have enough money to escape, but suddenly the factory guard was knocked out. Lucifer and Amenadiel broke in and confronted nearly a dozen armed men. Amenadiel prepared to use his angelic powers, but Lucifer stopped him. Although they fought with their physical bodies, they were able to defeat the guards. Then, they split up to find Malcolm. Amenadiel fell into Malcolm's trap and was stabbed with a special knife that could kill angels. He collapsed and blood spilled all over the hallway. Lucifer ran over and was shocked to see his dying brother. At this moment, Maze appeared in time. She told Lucifer to go find Malcolm and she would save Amenadiel. Meanwhile, Kloe also came to the factory and unexpectedly encountered Malcolm. She shot him once, but Malcolm still escaped. Lucifer quickly chased after Malcolm. Kloe raised her gun to block Lucifer's path. He sighed and said he came to help her. Kloe nodded and said she believed him. After saying that, the two of them chased after Malcolm, but he had completely disappeared. After escaping, Malcolm called Kloe to blackmail her. It turned out that he had kidnapped her daughter. Kloe immediately went to the meeting point at an abandoned warehouse. She handed over her gun and money to rescue her daughter, but Malcolm had no intention of letting her go. At the most dangerous moment, paper plane with a drawing of a devil flew above. At this moment, Lucifer appeared. Taking advantage of Malcolm's distraction, Kloe pulled her daughter away and escaped. Lucifer walked step by step towards Malcolm. He slowly asked him why he had died and then been resurrected, but did not know how to cherish life and instead did evil. Malcolm laughed, saying that because he knew what hell was like and he would never go back there. With that, he pulled out a gun and shot Lucifer. But because Kloe was close, Lucifer lost his power and collapsed. In his dying breath, Lucifer looked up to the sky, begged God for help, and promised that he would do whatever God wanted. He asked God to protect Kloe, then his breathing gradually weakened. Finally, Lucifer returned to hell. He walked in the cold, dark place filled with screams, but what surprised him was that a door to hell was wide open. There was no way someone had escaped from hell. Soon after, Lucifer woke up at the scene. It turned out that he had revived. Without wasting a second, he immediately went to Malcolm. At this time, Malcolm was trying to escape with the money, but Kloe and Lucifer had already surrounded him. Kloe pointed her gun at the opponent. Malcolm angrily said that he was not afraid of anything because he still had the hell coin. He would never die. Lucifer slowly raised his hand, and the coin appeared in his palm. Malcolm was shocked, not believing the truth. With no way to escape, Malcolm was shot down on the spot. Kloe hugged her daughter, while Lucifer silently turned away. Returning home, Lucifer met Amenadiel again. He said that everything was over. He had also talked to God. Amenadiel asked his brother what God had said. Lucifer said that God wanted him to send someone back to hell. Amenadiel asked who had escaped from hell. Lucifer turned his head and his eyes flashed with unprecedented fear.